to our presentation on the China study, where our category was obesity. I'm Jordan McDonald.
I'm Angela Casanave.
I am Julie Knopp.
And I'm Regan Rogers.
And we will be discussing our take on the Campbell's thesis. The thesis that we came up with to discuss today are vegetarians and vegans are slimmer than their meat-eating counterparts. We're going to prove this to you as either false or not false, or shall we say guilty or not guilty. So a little bit of background. There were a father and his son, the Campbells, and they conducted some research here in China based on diets. So it was a large research project to determine if their thesis was correct. Research was conducted in China where they studied vegetarian Chinese people, I should say. Calorie consumption, activity levels, and diseases were just some of the factors that were considered. And they concluded that vegetarian diets of the Chinese exemplified the best for weight loss and weight control.
All right, the first article that the Campbells looked at, they wanted to prove that consuming a whole foods plant-based diet will help you to lose weight, and furthermore, it can happen quickly. So they backed this statement up by an article from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, where they studied 10 men and 10 women who were traditional Hawaiians, and they had them eat a strict vegetarian diet in the tradition of their ancestors. And the amazing adherence to this study, the researchers said, was probably due to the fact that the Hawaiians had cultural pride. So the conclusions that the researchers made was that the Hawaiian diet was an effective treatment of obesity in the population of native Hawaiians. They didn't generalize it to anyone else. The next statement that the Campbells had was that vegetarians will likely spend more time eating and eat a larger volume of food than their meat-eating counterparts, due to the fact that there are fewer calories in each spoonful or cupful of these foods. So they backed this statement up by an article in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. This article studied, again, 10 obese and 10 non-obese subjects. They gave these people a really nutrient-dense, fibrous diet, and they examined them for how satisfied they were after they ate. They concluded in this article that because of the increase in fiber and nutrient density, that all the participants were satisfied, and so they were able to consume fewer calories on a large volume of food. All right, the third article we have that the Campbells used to support their thesis was that vegetarians consume the same amount or even significantly more calories than their meat-eating counterparts, and yet are still slimmer. And so they backed this statement up by another article from, well, it doesn't say, but they studied a lot of participants this time. There was 1914 men and 3,378 women. And these were, some were vegetarians, some were non-vegetarians. They gave them a food frequency questionnaire, and they classified them as either vegetarians or non-vegetarians. The conclusions they got from this research were that the people who didn't eat meat were thinner than those who did eat meat, based on the food frequency questionnaire that they got from those individuals. So they said this is probably due to a higher intake of dietary fiber that the vegetarians are getting, and the vegetarians also didn't eat as much animal fat, and the vegetarians also didn't drink as much alcohol. And then the last article that we are going to look at today, the Campbells stated, vegetarians have been observed to have a slightly higher rate of metabolism during rest, meaning that they burn up slightly more of their ingested calories as body heat rather than depositing them as body fat. So they said this to continue with their thesis, and they backed this up with another research article in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. This had only 12 men and 12 men that were vegetarians and 11 men that were not vegetarians. And they tested them after they ate a liquid meal and then measured the thermal effect of the food. The researchers concluded that indeed the level of the calorie intake may be an important regulator of the hormone because it was increased after they ate the meal. And they said, well, even though their metabolism was raised after this meal, it doesn't really contribute to a lower body weight in the vegetarians than in the non-vegetarians.
So to conclude, the first 4 articles were not very valid.
Okay, so according to the Campbells, they said that sweets, pastries, and pasta won't do it. They usually refer to the optimal diet as a whole foods, plant-based diet. Notice that a strict vegetarian diet is not necessarily the same as whole foods, plant-based. So basically, they did not back up this research article, and they did not encourage just any vegan or vegetarian diet. So they also said that, generally speaking, you can eat as much as you want and still lose weight as long as you eat the right type of food, which means that eating a healthier vegan or vegetarian food for weight loss and maintenance. Well, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics kind of agreed to that. They said that, yeah, you can eat healthy foods as long as it's in moderation, or it consists of a variety of foods, such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, low-fat dairy. They believe that eating a healthy food is important by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. They also stated that Campbell, the articles wasn't not backed up also. So some of the people use the calories they consume differently from other people, and it is true. This causes some people to believe they need to watch their calorie intake while others don't have to. And they made a statement about the comprehensive interpretation. And according to their comprehensive interpretation, those of us who consume a high fat and high protein diet simply retain more calories than we need. They also later explained that consuming a diet high in protein and fat transfers calories away from the conversion into body heat to their storage form. In contrast, diet low in protein and fat causes calories to be lost as the body heat. So there was no research to back that up either.
Alright, I'm here to talk about the verdict, and I'm going to use that Hills criteria. So we used 4 studies, and however the 4 studies were conducted fairly accurately, we found that they are not generalizable to the public that we are trying to define, which are vegans and vegetarian diets. And we found this because the first 2 studies that we used only had 20 overall volunteers or participants in the study, so that is not a very high statistical power value that you can conclude it generalizes the entire population. However, there was one study that did include a larger amount of participants in the study, but this cannot be generalizable to the public because, again, we talked about Hills criteria wants you to use a number of different methods when you're trying to test your research and make your conclusions valid, and they only use short-term methods. So, for example, they use the food frequency questionnaire. We would prefer that they would at least include one long-term method of research. All right.
So now that we've talked about 4 articles that were not satisfying or valid, we also discussed that their research was supported due to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and their laws against that. And then we also talked negatively again about how they conducted their own research and used their own research to make it valid, which doesn't work as well. So this can be a little confusing to the reader due to, it can be misguiding. It has some aspects of the truth along with some misinformation and incorrectly drawn conclusions. So this could cause the reader to believe that a vegan or vegetarian diet is indeed backed by scientific research, which is wrong. So our conclusion after reviewing all of the facts is that the only sustainable diet and lifestyle for weight loss, and whether vegan or vegetarian or meat eating, is to consume less calories than one expends and to engage in physical activity. So this was proven in countless research articles, and it seems to be the underlying factor of many of the research stated in the China study itself. So the verdict is guilty. And they're guilty of believing a false theory. Thank you for your time. Hope you liked it.